Let's recap the Sun Devils Pro Day that went down on Wednesday.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thanks, as always, for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. And a shout-out to my everydayers who are here every day. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Stay in touch with the content by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Now, today's episode is a long time coming. We had the Pro Day on Wednesday. I have had some stuff going on behind the scenes. Finally getting around to it are my overall thoughts on the Pro Day, kind of recapping what we were able to see. This will be a nice brief episode as we just blow through this real quick. So with introductions aside, what I want to start with was kind of my overall thoughts and some of my standouts for the day. So what was nice was it was a good showing. You had not only NFL teams that were there, but you had CFL teams and UFL teams that were present. And some of the guys were saying that they were in communication with the other leagues besides the NFL about potential futures there. I know Giovanni Sanders had mentioned that his agent was in talks with the other two leagues for the potential of his pro future. And I think that's awesome. We've talked before about how difficult it is to get drafted. And as much as I want to say that every single player on the Sun Devils is going to get drafted, the reality is not very many, if any, are going to get drafted this year. So the best thing that these guys can do is to continue preparing for their future outside of the NFL if they don't get that opportunity. If they are going to chase careers as football players, then you need to be able to explore all your horizons. And that was very evident for these kids. And that was another thing that really stood out, is that no matter who was in attendance, the guys were out there working their what's off, and they were putting 100% effort into it. Like, as you would expect from a pro day, these guys took the approach very seriously, saw it as a kind of combine opportunity for them, posted good workout numbers, and were able to impress some people. And some of the guys who stood out to me, I mean, first and foremost, Trey Brown, to me, easily had the best day. Among all of the participants for the Sun Devils, Trey Brown absolutely showed up. He had a 31.5-inch vertical jump. He, what was his broad jump was 9 feet, 9 inches. He threw up 21 reps on the bench press. He looked good in the actual drills that went on in the bubble out by Kajikawa practice fields. He looked good. And I feel like there was a really good amount of attention that Brown was able to draw to himself. And this is a veteran player who's been around college football for 5 years and was a key player to the Sun Devils last year, and especially to the defense for adjusting to a new defensive coordinator with Brian Ward coming in. And without Trey Brown, the adjustment would have been a lot more difficult. But he was able to help these guys get more comfortable in a new system very quickly, and the Sun Devils defense thrived. Trey Brown was at the forefront of that. And to me, that's going to be able to help sell him to future employers. And what he needed to do at that point was have himself a very successful pro day. And I would tell you that he did have a very successful pro day. I would put him as my first place. There's a few other guys that had really good pro days as well. To me, Brown stood out the most, but you also had a really good showing from D Ford, who he posted a 33-inch vertical. He threw up 12 reps on the bench press, which I don't think was expected from somebody who was primarily a nickel corner this past season, but he looked good and functionally strong. He ran the fastest in the 40 times that was Chris Edmonds. But he was clocking in the 4.4s to 4.5s, somewhere in that ballpark. We didn't have official times, but he did look quick. He looked impressive. I was very happy to see what I saw out of D Ford. My last winner that I noticed, Chris Edmonds running what was around a 4.3 on a hand time. Very impressive. And we know that he's got the closing speed. He's got good open field tackling. Last season, even though he wasn't the turnover machine that we've seen in previous years, we do know that he is prone to being able to create turnovers. So Edmonds had a good day too. D Ford had a good day. Trey Brown had a good day. And Joey Ramos looked pretty good as well. Threw up, what was I going to say? He threw up 24 reps on the bench press, just looked strong, looked comfortable, was pretty much what you've come to expect out of Joey Ramos. A+ for him, A+ for most of these guys. I don't think anyone had a bad pro day. I just feel like there were a slew of guys who had borderline exceptional pro days to help boost their stock. Fire TV is your destination for sports, live games, highlights, and in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers an amazing viewing experience with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your TV that provides access to movies and TV episodes. And I'm talking millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend of baseball or the college basketball tournament that tips off this week, you're going to want to have Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us here at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on the latest in the sports world, from March Madness to NBA, Major League Baseball, and more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Take my word on it. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Also want to talk to you about our friends over at Nissan. This week is March Madness, and our bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, one team that's pushed it further than the rest. And just like all of the 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. Although the Tennessee Vols were not able to pull off the win in the SEC championship, you can't help but feel like you can describe them as the Pathfinder, because they've found themselves to consistently be in great competition with the SEC, and their Player of the Year candidate, Dolphin Neck, has carried the Vols all season long to make them a must-watch in March. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Back into our conversation. I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Let's go ahead and just wrap up with my overall thoughts for how everything went. And like I said, not to continue to feed a fat horse here, but I did feel like ASU's players as a whole had really strong workouts. You had some guys that really blew me away, and I can only hope got a lot of attention from the scouts and the teams that were in attendance, whether that's NFL or otherwise. There were players that I feel nationally not many knew about that ended up garnering some attention. Trey Brown, man, I feel like he made himself some serious cash. And I really hope that that ends up being the case, because he's a good football player. And at the end of the day, sometimes you don't need to be the most talented or most athletic or most gifted player on the football field. Sometimes you just need to be the best football player. Somebody who is intelligent, somebody who is able to command the respect and command the leadership of those around him. To me, that's Trey Brown. With a good workout, I'm really hoping that he's going to start getting more and more and more attention. Chris Edmonds, running as quick as he did, definitely got some people looking his direction. Joey Ramos, someone who I do think can get drafted for the Sun Devils, worked out pretty much the way we expected him to. Ro Torrance, although he didn't have the best day, I still feel like it was about what we expected him to do. He was hand-timed around a 4.6, and of course, not competing at the combine hurt him a little bit. He's the other Sun Devil that I feel pretty confidently that he could and should get drafted. It wasn't a dominant day, but it certainly was anything but a bad workout for Ro Torrance. Deshaun Mallory, I lied. There's 3 Sun Devils I think could get drafted. It would be Mallory, Ramos, and Torrance. Mallory looked good. And I've said before that I feel like Deshaun Mallory is this year's edition of Nesta Jade Silvera as that big defensive tackle / nose tackle who thrived in his role at Arizona State and is able to get himself a flyer at the NFL level. The 3 of them, to me, at worst, should be undrafted free agents for NFL teams and get tryouts in the pros. And for some of the other guys, like Giovanni Sanders, had a really solid pro day as well. I highlighted him. I would love to see him get a tryout, but I do feel very confident that he's going to get an opportunity in a different league if it's not going to be the NFL. This was an overall successful event for the Sun Devils. Really, really happy that I finally got around to this. I'm sure you guys have seen lots of it by now, but there's your brief little recap from me. I want to know what you guys think about the pro day. We have spring training camp around the corner here, so I want to know what you guys think of what you want to see, what you want to pay attention to, so that I can relay that info to you guys as well. But I appreciate you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. Wherever you get your podcast, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. Stay in touch with content by following me on Twitter at RichieBrats36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Guys, you're the best. Appreciate you as always. We'll be back again tomorrow to talk more Arizona State Sun Devils sports. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.